I started first grade at the Tinley Park Grade School. It was on 172nd, 17248 67th Avenue and 173rd Street. Now it is Central Junior High. And there I met my good friend and buddy, Junie Willman. Oh, Lordy. Our teacher was Miss Jean Morningstar, later to be Mrs. Paul Raha. She married the postmaster. Mrs. Helen Sandridge was principal of the 5th grade, and Glenn Kleinbell was principal of the 8th grade. Each may have been principal of other grades, but I can't remember. Two other teachers that I remember were my 3rd grade teacher, who was Luann Robinson Byes, and of course Helen Sandridge. Helen taught the whole town, and I say she should have got a trophy for handling our wild group. When we moved to Tinley Park, there were only a few Catholics. The families were Ficker, Lalonde, Cup, Bagby, Nugent, Snyder, and Kozowski. And the priest came once a month, and he stayed with a different family each time. And the whole church had fun together. I heard tales of Pete Lalonde Sr. and my dad rubbing Limburger cheese on each other at the church picnic and then rolling down the hill. There had to have been a few beers involved in this fun event. Gosh. We had church, in that little tiny room by the bathroom, the room behind the bar in Sanger's Hall. Later on, we bought the building at 67th and 173rd Street, across from the Tinley Park Grade School. Then we turned the building into St. George's Church, and Father Boyle was our first priest. There were many chicken and spaghetti dinners. Oh gosh, how many? Made below the church by the ladies. I didn't cook. Of course, I was too young, but I helped. My dad said that the fellows at Sanger's Hall, which was at 67th Court and 174th Street, always brought him drinks. They just wanted to hear him talk, and they wanted to hear the stories with his Swedish accent. He said they thought he was a dumb Swede, but he was the one that got the free drinks, so he said he was the winner in the end, so the dumb Swede wasn't so dumb after all. I love that. I remember my dad coming home with crazy things. He bought a skull, and that the skull sat on a book. That was the whole thing, see? And then you just put it someplace, you know. Ooh, who wants to look at that in their front room? Well, we did. Anyway, we had it in the front room for years. I don't know where it went. He never bought me a doll. He bought me a stuffed monkey, and I called the monkey Tito. And I had him for years. And I can't imagine why I chose that name for him. Of course, somehow during the years, Tito got lost. I don't know. He must have got thrown out somehow when we were moving from one place to the other. Dad had a pewter ashtray. This was a lady climbing a ladder to get pears. And as you look at her, she's looking at you climbing the ladder, has a few pears in one hand. You turn it over, and her skirt was caught on a ladder rung, and you saw her bare behind. It was pornographic in 1930, but my dad had this kooky sense of humor, and I still have that ashtray with the lady picking pears. I remember sitting on Father Boyle's lap as he showed me how to make eye holes with hot pennies in our frosted kitchen windows. Once, he gave me his pewter box. It's shaped like a storm cellar. He kept it on his desk, and I would tell him, oh, I love that, it's so beautiful. And he gave it to me. I still have it now, 65 years later, and it still has the cedar wood lining inside, and I use it for stamps. How generous he was to give it to me, a little kid. That was amazing. every Saturday when we'd go to Chicago to see Grandma and Grandpa, Grandma had this really big, round dining room table. When she put the pieces in it, it almost filled up the whole room. And when we got there on Saturday, it was always full of homemade meat and spinach ravioli. They were drying for our supper. As we drove to Grandpa's, there was a statue at Logan Square. I can't remember what it is. Some guy standing up there with his arm out. And as soon as we saw the statue, my dad would say, "I smell beer." He knew that Grandpa always had beer for him. And Grandma always had the homemade bread loaded with peanut butter and coffee for me, one of my favorite foods.